Yeah.
We only have one microphone, so I know.
Oh, sorry.
That's too close. All right, guys. Everybody take a seat. Oh, we got something going on here. It's, all right. Everyone, thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you for taking the time of your day to come and listen to Bob talk about his experience at the TOR. We're really, really excited to have all of you here. Really excited to have Bob and share his experience with us. So yeah, I'll just let Bob take it from here.
Great.
Okay?
Thanks, Paolo. All right. So thanks, everybody, for coming. I think I know almost everybody here. And what we're going to do tonight is really, I'm going to tell a few stories. I'm not going to give a trip report or all that. You've seen some of the beautiful pictures, and we'll put them back up when I'm done. It speaks for itself. You know, the Italian Alps are a beautiful place. And so I'm going to talk more about some stories that really capture the spirit of what the Tour de Géants are. So it'll be that, and we'll do a little Q&A. If you don't have a drink in your hand, you have a problem. So you should. Thanks to our sponsor tonight, ExoSkin, you get your first drink free, and you probably end up with your second drink free. Who knows? I don't know. We don't worry about those things here in Auburn. Okay, some context. I'm not a runner. I never was a runner. I was a wrestler and a football player. And I don't, yeah. Oh, by the way, yes, I should have noted, heckling is encouraged, and throwing things is really encouraged as long as I can eat whatever it is that you throw. If I can't eat it, I don't really want it. So keep socks to yourself, Craig. So I grew up, you know, pretty heavy. There it was. Thank you, Aaron. And I started running in my 30s to lose weight. And I was introduced to the trails through ride and ties. So I met Marcy at a farm in Maryland. We were involved in a sleepaway camp that was pretty rural and had horses as a theme. Marcy ran the horseback riding instruction, and I learned how to ride from Marcy, had a love with horses. So when I first came to trail running, it was actually through trail running. Perry Edwards, who's here local, asked me to join him on a team to run a ride and tie in '91. So I started running trails then, and then someone mentioned to me, I think it was actually Tom Johnson, you know, there's a group of people that just run, you don't have to ride the horse. And I said, well, why would you do that? That seems dangerous and silly and all of the above. But that led to my trail running, and I've never looked back. So 30 years of trail running, and I am called the diesel. I am a diesel. That's kind of, you know, I just chug along. I'm not really fast. I'm just consistent, and less so consistent now. But nonetheless, I'm a pretty good, you know, mover through whatever the course may be. The tour itself was in its 10th year. So we just finished the tour. It's 10 years old. It's in the Italian Alps. I'll show you a map here real quick. There's 921 runners that start. It's a big race. 72 countries are represented, and about a 40% finish rate. So it's not the most kind. I mean, finish rates are usually up at 60, 70, 80%. 40% is pretty tough. So it's indicative of the fact that it is a difficult race. And yes, they do kind of vet the runners that come in. So all the runners are great. They're terrific. They're great athletes, but it's a tough course, as you'll see from the pictures. This is where the Aosta Valley is, which is where I ran, and it's really on the border of the French Alps here, the Swiss Alps here, and then we run around the Italian Alps. So if you watch Tour de France, many of the legs of Tour de France take place all around here, and that's where we actually get to run. This is the valley itself. We start in Comayer in Italy, and we stay in Italy the whole time and run counterclockwise around the valley. There's 21 summits, and we get to pass Mount Rosa, which is the largest, tallest mountain that's exclusively in Italy. Mount Cervino, which is the Matterhorn. You've all know well in Switzerland. and then Mont Blanc, which is half in Italy, half in France. It's the biggest of them all. So those are sort of in the background. We don't run over those three, but they're always there around us, and we run over 21 summits as we go around them, and it's an absolutely stunning place to run. The TOR is, for you locals that know Western states, it's 5 times the climbing, 4 times the downhill, and 2.2 times the distance. So it's running from Auburn to the track and back to Auburn, and then back to Duncan Canyon is the distance. But it's what really gets at you is this and this, which is it's just a lot of climbing and a lot of downhill, and then particularly the downhill is underestimated how tough it can be. And it's this kind of terrain. That's the other thing. So it's not, your lovely single track trail. It's a lot of debris, granite debris and rubble and scree. And so even when you're running downhill, it's not pleasant because you have to kind of navigate through this kind of stuff. My tour, I DNF'd, did not finish in 2018. And I dropped it about 175K. The race is 330K, so right around halfway. I had a really bad fall. Fell backwards on a rock, and it kind of messed my back up. I decided to come back, and I did finish this year. It was 143 hours of being out there, so it's right around 6 days. You have a 150-hour limit, so I was began to press sort of the upper limits, but that was by design, and I'll talk about that. It's 30,000 calories or more that you burn in something like that. I did tear my quad tendon in the last 18 hours, so that made it a little more interesting at the end to have to run with the torn tendon, but you get it done. And then I'm still really on my 4th week of PTTSD. That's post-traumatic TOR stress. Yeah, it's amazing how the recovery has been very, very complicated with sleeping for 20 minutes at a time and waking up and eating just short of what a draft horse would eat on a regular basis and all the other things that come with it. It's been very, very interesting how this race, more than any other thing I've ever done, has put me into a state of I don't know what to call it yet, but it's been tough to recover from. So why? Why do I do this? I'm working on kind of a thesis of what runners have as an assets, and you always start with whys, and whys can be emotional. It can be running for a cause. It can be self-reflection. It can be challenging yourself. There's a lot of reasons why, and I'm not going to get into that tonight. But we all have these things. We have genes. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Well, some of us have more than one gene. We have genes which, God-given, whatever we get from our mother and father and grandmother and just grandfathers. We have grit. We have prep, which is planning and preparing and training and all those things. And you have adaptation, which is kind of MacGyvering yourself. When you get into trouble, are you able to get yourself out of trouble? So those 4 things kind of even, I show them sort of even, but for me, in assessing my own self, before the tour, I'm a very average athlete, and I know that, and I've pushed myself to the edge and hurt myself trying to become more than average, and so I had to come to peace that I'm low on the physical. The genes I got, they're not so great in terms of being an athlete. My grit is okay, but it's an area that I can definitely work on, and it's age independent. My preparation, the planning, I'm a big planner. And so I was heavy on preparing, planning, trying to take risk out of the run. That's something I'm really good at. And my adaptation, my ability to be caught in bad circumstances and not get emotional, not lose my temper, not lose my cool. I was getting better, but I needed a lot more improvement if I was going to survive this kind of race. So that was my own self-assessment against kind of my own version of how to assess what are the assets that each of us have. So ultra running for me is a transportation into my soul, and stories and friendships are the fuel. And so I'm going to frame this discussion really just with 2 or 3 stories, because I think it's really what it's all about. And so, as the people from the hunt know, I love games. And so it's in the framework of Jeopardy, TOR edition, of course. And so the categories for tonight are team sports, touring, as in T-O-R-I-N-G, sawmill, Italian hero, snap karma, and amazing feat. We're not going to do all these. We're going to do a few. All right? But those are the categories. First category, team sport. And what is it? What is team sport? It's the best way to ensure you're going to succeed. A race like this, you've got to have a great team. And I was able to assemble one of the best, I think, in the world. So Megan, who's here tonight, I've never really had a coach in my life in the 30 years of ultra running, but I decided this was so important and so key to me that I needed to have somebody hold me accountable on a whole other level. And Megan took up the challenge, even though she'd never trained anybody for a 200, never really gotten involved with anything like this. But Megan and I know each other, we trust each other, and we had a absolute great partnership. She recommended I take a look at my nutrition for fueling, and so Stephanie Howe became my nutritionist, and she broke down every gram that I was eating and put it back together for a specific diet just for this kind of race. Valois, who's the founder of Team Monsters Massage, and Marnie Coots, who also is in our network, provided sort of physical manipulation so that when I got the therapy that I needed to kind of fix some things I'll talk about, Valois was there kind of on a weekly basis. This is Marnie. Marnie not only was a massage therapist, but also became part of my crew, as was her son, Zach. They came to Italy for other business, but ended up being on the crew on the ground, along with Donna, who's from Ireland, and Fred from France. And so I had a truly international team, a stellar team, on the ground and here. This is Lino. Now, Lino works for Kinetics downtown. He is a guy that after 5 doctors in 10 years, I had to fix my knee, which was diagnosed as tendonitis. I went to him, and he said, you don't have a tendonitis problem. In fact, you don't have a problem with your knee at all. The problem's in your hip. We'll fix your hip, it'll fix your knee, and by the way, as a bonus, it'll also fix your hamstrings and your glutes and your lower back. And it did. In 3 months, he had me functioning like a real athlete again, which hadn't been the case in 10 years. My wife, Marcy, has been the anchor. She really is fearful about what I'm doing, to be fair, but she gets over that fear and supports me regardless of that fact. And it's a selfish sport, it's a selfish thing I do, and it's dangerous. It is dangerous, but she supports me no matter what, and I couldn't do it without her. Don, who's here tonight, Don has been my intrepid training partner for years. He's the one that introduced me to 200 milers and to mountain running, and he really has been, you know, we've been inseparable for 3-4 years now. Don and I went together last year to the tour, and we both had the same kind of, different reasons, same result. We didn't finish. I'm kind of sure that Don, by the end of this night, is going to go right on to whatever registration site is available for the tour and be signing up. Trail Animals is my running club back east that I've been involved with since '86, and it's 6,500 runners. We put on 12 runs a year, 3,200 runners. It's a phenomenal club, and it's very, very dear and near to my heart. And then the hunt, which is led by Craig and Lori, and we each Tuesday night go to their home, and a different person leads the hunt, and we come back, and it's really a bunch of drinking people that have a running problem. But nonetheless, the hunt and the community that's formed there has provided me immeasurable amount of support, and it's very much a part of my team. Lastly, I was able to, through Fred, get a van for my team. That's Black Sheep and Exoskin, which I'll talk a little bit more tonight. Tailwind. I had a French friend of mine that made my pack, custom made my pack, which was specifically for the tour. 33 Fuel, which is out of the UK, was what I ate if I wasn't eating off the aid table. And then Lakey poles has been a mainstay for me and frankly for a lot of the other athletes in the room. It's a phenomenal, so I had this incredible support group that was behind the scenes and in front of the scenes that without, I'm not sure I could have pulled off the finish that I had. Touring. Okay, now touring for me, it was a revelation that happened, what is touring? Duh. Touring is on a race that's 220 miles, 6 days. Should you team up? Should you enjoy the scenery? Should you be joyful? You better be, because if you're not, it's going to be impossible to finish. And so, duh, yes, you should tour, not race. I mean, I'm not trying to be in the top 10. It's not possible. I showed you my chart. I'm a 10% at best of the 100% is my physical ability. I'm never going to finish in the top 10, so then what do you do? And for the first, I don't know, two-thirds of the race, I was still trying to race against a certain time that I'd set for myself, and I realized at this point, when I came to this exact spot and I saw Mont Blanc off in the distance, I literally dropped to my knees because look at how beautiful it is. But I also realized how freaking far away. It was another 100K away, and I was exhausted, right, already. But I was brought to my knees for both reasons, but it was at that moment that I contacted my crew and I said, we're going to start touring, we're going to stop racing. We're going to use the clock in 150 hours to be our friend and not use it as something that we race against. And the minute that happened, my joy, my ability to understand what was going on around me, appreciate the environment, the people at the aid stations, my crew, my fellow runners, it was like a switch went off, and I'm like, now I'm really going to enjoy myself. I'm really going to have a great time. I never thought I wasn't going to finish, even when I was racing, but this put me into a frame of mind of joy. I mean, just sheer joy made the whole thing much more exciting. And as a result, within 2 hours of making that decision, I started to introduce myself to the runners that had been around me for 3 days. Whether they spoke English or not, I didn't care. I was like, hey, we're running together. Why don't we team up? And I first found Sophia from Zimbabwe, and I introduced myself and said, we've seen each other for days. I'm touring. I explained what that was. Are you interested? And without question, she said, I'm in. And she and I began to run together, team up, and say, we'll take care of each other. Within 20 minutes of us doing that, and this is absolutely true, this fellow here, Christopher Boustard, from my running club in Boston, of all the chances, he sent me a text and said, where are you? And I said, I think we're 2 hours ahead of you. We're touring. If you can catch up to us, we're going to go for a nap. Why don't you join us? And by the time we woke up from that nap, he was on our doorstep, and he joined us. And so now we had a team of 3. And then at the next aid station that we arrived at, this is Rock Horton. Rock's one of the original guys at Hard Rock. He puts on a very famous aid station called Kroger's Canteen, which is at 10,500 feet. He's a legend, a real, genuine legend in ultra running. I found him with his head down on a table at an aid station, and we poked him and woke him up and said, Rock, we're doing this kind of adventure race team, and he joined the team, and so now we had a team of 4. Ironically, 3 Americans, completely random, and one of them was from my running club, and the other one was a guy that I really never knew Rock before. Of course, I knew Hard Rock and had run it, but here we were, and from that point on, with 2.5 days left, we were now an adventure team, and we agreed to run together. It's a team sport. It made all the difference. It made it so enjoyable, so much fun. We're going to be lifelong friends. And so the second point is, something like the Tour, don't do it alone. Unless you're trying to win the race or be top 10, do what we did. And it took me half the race to figure it out. And by the way, my intrepid crew became their crew, and they were served up homemade omelets, crepes, McDonald's hamburgers, which Craig's familiar with, and a bunch of other food that they were not getting. And so a bonus was my crew was excited to actually take on extra athletes, and they teamed up with their spouses, and now the crews were doing the same thing we were doing. They were all joining together, and it was terrific. So now, Sawmill, next story. It's about, what is it? It's about a refugio, some bunkmates, some trees that were destroyed, and some lemonade. That's the refugio. That's Refugio Cooney at 260K. We arrived there at 2 in the morning on like the 4th night. And we were, now as a group of 4, it's the first time all 4 of us were together, and we'd agreed we were going to go there and sleep for a half hour. It was a great plan. First time we'd all been together, and there they were. There was Rock, there was Chris, and there's Sophia, and I looked just like that. And we said, okay, yeah, we got to get a half hour sleep. And so these are some of the trees that were destroyed in this story, just as reference. And that is Refugio Cooney, which all these refugios are like little hostels where you know have beds and they have some food, and they look just like, you know, very barren. When I did my training run, that's the bed I got for Refugio Cooney. I thought, oh, this is great. 2 in the morning, they show us into this dark room. We're going to get beds like this. It's going to be great. Well, that's the bed we got. It's a 5 sleeper, 5 across, times, you see the woman up here? 5 across by 3. It's a 15 sleeper structure. You can see it even better here, right? So 2 in the morning, we're exhausted. We're barely, you know, able to keep our eyes open. We come in the dark. We come in right in here, and we sleep right here. These are the beds we slept in. I slept here. Chris slept there. Rock and Sophia. And that's what we had, and it was fine. We were like, whatever, it's a bed. Put the blankets on. Everybody lays their head back. Now, I have a little trouble sleeping, so I put earphones in and listen to music. So I'm in the process of doing that, and Chris, on my right ear, he puts his head on the pillow. He's out, gone, and he is sawing. I mean, just honking in my right ear. And then I got the thing almost working, and Rock's next to me. He's twice as loud. I mean, it is a complete, I'm like, there's no frickin' way I'm going to get to sleep. It was a sawmill. Trees were being destroyed in mass quantities. And so you make lemonade out of that. I thought, all right, great. We'll call it Refugio Cooney Sawmill, and we'll sell T-shirts and hats and tumblers, and they're available tonight. And in fact, I'll pass these out now, just as a temptation. There are stickers that Aaron made at his store, and you're welcome to take these home, and it should be a stimulant for you to actually buy things that are now Refugio Cooney Sawmill at a store near you.
And where did you get these fine stickers
from? From Aaron. Uptown Signs. Thank you. Okay, so what did I end up with at the tour? I actually slept over 6 days, 2.5 hours total. And part of the reason was because that was the first time the 4 of us slept together. I had not been sleeping up to then. I got a half-hour decent sleep when we were waiting for Chris, and then kind of the wheels came off the bus, because when we gathered together to sleep together, the problem is I'm really sensitive to all the noise, and so they were sleeping great. Me not so much. And so it was a bit of a hole I had dug, and it was just getting deeper and deeper and deeper. But, that's the tour. That's what happens.
I guess Marcy doesn't.
Marcy never snores, no. Never happens. Okay, and this is the real picture. I mean, you see lots of great pictures of me, and I look terrific. That's what you really look like. Okay? I'm just like, whatever. And the reason the pack is off my shoulder is because it was cutting into my arm, And so I couldn't actually have the pack on my shoulder. I had to wear it like this. And people thought it was like a fashion statement. But that's what you look like when you sleep 2.5 hours. Okay, the last one I want to talk about is amazing feet. And this was kind of the teaser to get you all here. Of course, you all want to hear about feet, not about the tour or about me. So 200 miles and change, 6 days, 1 pair of socks. Honest to God. In fact, not only is it 1 pair of socks, but it is these socks. I have not taken them off, yeah. I've been showering in them. I couldn't get them off. My feet got so full of edema and these have been on me for a month now. And no, honest to God, these are the socks, and if you come and examine them, if you dare, you'll see that they're almost like brand new. It's amazing. So, warning, now turn away if you're not feeling good, your stomach is upset. I'm warning you right now. That's why it's in double red. Okay, everybody, here it comes. Yeah. Ah, yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
So you put your socks on after that?
This is before I found 2 things. I found this guy, John Vanoof, and his book, Fixing Your Feet, and I read it, and I dog-eared it, and I became a student of John Vanoof, who's been involved with Western States for a long time. He's in the kind of the Bay Area. He is a phenomenal foot treater, but you got to learn how to take care of your feet, and I learned the hard way. So for a number of ultras and a lot of the 200s I'd done before, those were my feet. And he helped me fix it, and then I discovered these guys. And tonight we are officially launching. It's one of the only retail stores in the nation to have Exoskin. They're right here. And I wear them. I'm an ambassador for them. I am an advocate for them. A number of the people here, we've gotten you into their socks, but it's the most phenomenal thing I've ever seen. Honest to God, I wore 1 pair of socks, and then why did I do that? It almost became a challenge. It's like, I wonder if I can get through 6 days in 1 pair of socks, and the answer is, yeah. And that's my feet after. The toenails, ignore the toenails, but my feet were flawless. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, they're flawless. Okay. Do you want me to go back and, all right, compared to that or that or that, yeah, though it's flawless. So anyways, tonight we are introducing Exoskin. It's available here at the store, 20% off for tonight only. And what Marcy and I have decided to do is for every pair of socks we sell tonight, we're going to give $20 to the middle school, the Auburn Middle School cross-country team, which Jim is the coach of. So just as an extra incentive, and we'll have a bowl if you want to give more, but Jim is one of our Hunt members. He's also in charge of the Auburn Winds, so a little plug tomorrow, 3 o'clock, Auburn Winds, over at the theater. Fantastic group. Jim is the conductor. Megan plays flute. But we're really, we want to incent you to try to get into something that I believe deeply in. And so they're here. Try them on, take them home. But tonight, if you buy a pair, we'll give an extra $20 per pair to Jim. Okay, Final Jeopardy. Let's see if I can get this thing to work. Probably not. Final Jeopardy is. Yep. No, it's not Italian Hero. No. Yep. Yep. That's it. Yes. Done. No. Thank you. Good singing. What's the best way to describe the TOR? Well, for me, it's not physical. It really, it's not mental. And those are the things that I find in ultras. You challenge both your physical and mental. It really strips you down raw, completely, to whatever your studs are in yourself. It strips you down. And what remains is something incredibly primal, and it's you. It's kind of the real you. And I learned to appreciate that even more and more now that I've done it, is how important that was for me to get to that place and understand who I really was. And do you all have to go run 6 days in the Alps to do that? No, I don't think so. But for me, that's what my outcome was, and that's what I was hoping to find. So when you come back to this chart that I'm developing as kind of a thesis of, you have your why, and you have your mix of genes, grit, preparation, and an adaptation. And this is what I showed you I was before the tour. I'm pretty sure this is kind of what I've got after the tour. So what did I get out of this? Yeah, I got physical improvement thanks to Megan. She did help me, kind of juice out of me as much as I could possibly get for this kind of race physically. So I did improve there, but the big gains were my grit, my ability to sustain being uncomfortable mentally and physically over a long period of time went way up. And also adaptation, my ability to MacGyver, get into situations where I didn't plan for it. All the planning, all the things you do, the great crew, but there were dozens and dozens of things that went wrong over 143 hours that I had to deal with, and I needed to keep my cool, I needed to figure out what to do, work with my team, and I really got much better at that. And I think for my life, not just running, these are assets I'm going to use the rest of my life, and I'm super appreciative of that. So at the end of the day, that's me at 16 years old. I'm that guy, and I'm really proud that that's me now. And all of that work and all the things that I think about in terms of adaptation and grit and all those things, at the end of the day, that's the person I want to be more of, not that. And, it is what it is. It's who I am. So thanks for listening. And okay, I got the thumbs up from Marcy, so that means there's time. Yeah, no hook. So any questions about, whatever? Yes?
Miss your hair, that 16-year-old picture you have on here.
Yeah.
You don't have as much hair now, Bob.
Here it comes. Yeah, bring it on. It's just a different color now, Megan. It's still there. I prefer to hide it now, because I don't need hair to determine who I am anymore. Okay. Yeah.
How often did you actually wash those socks?
Yeah. I never washed them, but they were washed for me because we had snow and rain. And so while I was running, they were essentially in a washing machine. So when I'd get to a refugio, I'd squeegee them out. And then when I was trying to sleep, and I usually was resting, not sleeping, I'd hang them on the end of the bed. And another remarkable thing about this material is within a half hour, they were completely dry. So they weren't clean, but they were cleaner.
So you did take them off?
I did take them off because my feet look like that first picture. Your feet start to float where your skin separates from your feet because they're so wet. And the only way to fix that is in a race is you have to dry your feet. So while you're sleeping, you sleep with your feet outside the covers, let them dry, let the socks dry, and in a half hour your feet will come back where you can put it all back together again.
Looking back, what would you, reflecting on this journey that you went on, what would you do differently?
What would I do different? I definitely have to dial in how to sleep. 2.5 hours, way too, I was sleepwalking. Yeah, I tried earplugs, I tried sound. Yeah, I don't have it dialed in yet. And if you try to do this race and you can't go to sleep right away, it's a huge competitive disadvantage. And I need to figure out how to learn how to sleep on command, on demand. Learning how to sleep in a race, yeah. I'm pretty good at it at home, but
Well, you know what I mean.
yeah.
In that journey, learning how to, what can you do that would help you train for
I'm actually looking into military research for soldiers in combat where they're in a platoon and they're engaged, right? And they have to sleep in turns, right, while they're on guard or while they're under fire. And so how do they do that? They do it. They can sleep on demand in a foxhole. How do they do that? Some of it's hypnosis. Some of it is meditation, but there are techniques that are taught to the military that I need to learn how to do.
You can play, say, what's that movie, Saving Private Ryan? Just play that really loud and go to bed.
Yeah.
That work?
Yeah. I think.
Hey, I'm saving you some
Yeah,
money.
Johnny, you're going to be my sleep. You're going to be my sleep consultant, right? Renata?
Suggest to start with the team out earlier in the race, like, you know, you only did it like 2 days before you finished, you had those 4 people running together. Do you think it would be better to start out early?
Yeah. So Renata's asking a question: would it be better to start kind of like an adventure team? Yeah. I mean, I think, look, you either run to try to compete to a time or place. If you're doing that, it's really hard to run as an adventure group, if you will. But 90% of the runners are there to finish this race. It's hard enough. And I think my takeaway was, yeah, I mean, if you know people you can run with, great. Don and I actually, that was our plan. We were going to run together and finish together, and that kind of blew up.
5K.
Yeah, within 5K. So what we have learned to do is, as you're running along, people are sort of in your time frame. Yeah, I mean, I should have thought about touring much earlier, and then I would have had a longer time to be with them. But I honestly, I was thrilled with the group we had because they were such incredible people, very interesting people, and it just makes the time go by. And one of the things about adventure racing is one person gets to be in the lead, and the other 3, in our case, we said, just turn your brain off. Just follow the footsteps, step on the same rocks, don't think. And I'll tell you, the mental exhaustion of this race is far greater than the physical. Because when you're going downhill, it's that terrain I showed you, and it's relentless. It's 15K, and you can't not think about it, and you have to think about every step in the dark, in the wet, on the mud. And if you have someone in front of you doing all that, all you have to do is follow their feet. And it's so much less stress. And then everybody takes a turn.
So this was very, very good. Very impressive. I understand the desire to want to work with other people initially, but how would you sleep?
Exactly.
It seemed like it would work against your major problem of sleep.
Right. So Craig's question is, if you work together in the beginning, how do you sleep? And it's true, because everybody's sleep plan or their cycles are different. And so you can't possibly, in a race like this, as Don and I were told numerous times when we arrived last year, they're like, you guys are going to try to stay together and sleep together, and that's never going to work. And it's true. So I think by default, it's towards the end of the race, maybe halfway, 3/4 of the way, where people have kind of all settled into a level of exhaustion or rhythm that you can actually move together. And we tried to sleep together, and to be fair, I was the only one that had a problem. We slept together 5 times as a team, and I was the only one that was struggling with that. The other 3, they woke up and they were happy as clams. So I suffered the greatest. I have the problem I have to fix. But it is true that just because you're going at the same pace and you're compatible, and maybe you can speak the same language, it doesn't mean that the sleeping is going to be in sync. And it's a huge factor in these kind of races. Sleep, you eat, you sleep, and you move, walk or run, and repeat. And it's over and over. And if you can't do all 3 of those things well, you got a problem. And for me, I survived it, okay? Maybe I had better grit than I thought I had, but my lack of sleep was a huge problem. So, good question. And I'm not sure what the answer is, other than you get lucky. You find somebody out there that happens to be on your same biorhythm. That would be great. But there's no way you can sort of predict that. You just have to find them along the way.
What if you dose yourself with melatonin in small amounts,
Yeah.
small amounts of 2
So yeah, any kind of drug, but what's melatonin? I did use 1 caffeine pill. Just yeah. So there are people that experiment with that. I haven't. The only thing that I did ingest was 1 caffeine pill for 1 night, because I've found what happens is it's good for 6 hours. It's incredible. I mean, you're lit up like a Christmas tree at the National Monument. But after that wears off, if you take a second caffeine pill, it's like 2 hours at best, and if you take a third, it makes you sleepy. So you kind of get one shot, and then you're done. And I used that silver bullet kind of in day 4. It worked great, and then I was like, yeah, I'm out. Great.
Question.
Yep.
We know you're a big cramper.
Yep.
Did you cramp in this race? And then before you answer that, and the second one, what's the difference between Injinji and your eco?
Okay. So Craig said, yeah, I'm a cramper, and I've cramped only in the last 5-6 years, and I won't get into why, but I do. I'll cramp pretty frequently. I did not cramp in this race. My hydration and my stomach and my fueling, I was spot on. And I trained to eat the food that was on the training table. I ate Fontana cheese. I made polenta every week. I ate bread. I ate and trained on what I knew was coming, and it worked. And I didn't cramp, and I was fueled properly. Tailwind was fantastic for me, so I was so pleased that for 6 days, as a cramper, didn't cramp, never lost my stomach for a moment. In terms of the socks, yeah, so I used Injinji, and Don and I have used them for years. What the problem I had with them is they're mostly wool, merino wool, and if you get a pebble or a stone or anything in there, that starts to eat away at the wool pretty quickly, and you can go through one good workout, and you're like, shoot, I got a hole in that damn thing, okay? And they also retain the water more than I would like. So when I got into the exoskin, the difference was threefold. One, they don't seem to retain any water. It'll come back into your shoe. You can dump it out of your shoe, but it's not in your sock. It's the way it's woven. Two, I don't know what they have copper in them, but they have a lot of other weaves in them. And honest to God, I probably have close to 1,000 miles on these socks, including the TOR. And test me, they look brand new, and they wash brand new. So I'm getting probably 3 times the durability from these socks that I am from an Injinji. That's the second difference. And the third is, I was still getting blisters with Injinji. Right, wrong, or different, and Don witnessed it. Not pretty. I mean, those pictures were when I was wearing Injinji toe socks. So why the difference? I don't use any lube. I don't use any powder. I don't use any cream. I don't use anything on my feet. I just put them in the socks and run. And I guess whatever the weave is, and I'm not going to get into what that is tonight, it works. It's been a year now, and I've not had a blister in a year. And for me, you saw those pictures, that's remarkable. So, Don, you want to add?
Speak to him just a little bit about, I think it's Jim that owns Exoskin and his experience as a fabric provider. He didn't just show up onto the scene. He knows a lot of stuff.
He's supplied socks to Adidas, Nike, Under Armour, all the major brands for 25 years. And the reason he started his own company was because he got frustrated that they took his patented recipe, took out some of the things that were expensive, and then produced a sock under their names that was inferior to what he intended. And he got tired of them coming back and going, you said your sock would do X, and it's not. It's performing as Y. And he said, well, yeah, because you screwed with the recipe. And so he finally got so sick of it, he said, fine, I'm going to start my own company. I'm going to pare way back, and I'm going to start from scratch all over again. I'm only going to sell online initially, which is where they sell most of their sales, and I'm only going to sell to endurance athletes that care. And that's where we are. And we're in kind of year 3, and he's now open to the idea of retail. And Paulo and the aid station are one of the first in the country to test that. But at the end of the day, it's one of these things where you discover it by accident or through a friend or whatever. It's not a big name, it's not a big brand. But I will tell you, and then I will stop sounding like I work for them, but these are the most, you saw my feet. And when your feet go bad, I don't care how much grit you have or how much planning you've made. When your feet go bad, your race is either agony or it's over, or both. If you can figure out how to take care of your feet, you are eliminating a huge problem. And for whatever reason, and I think I know what the reason is, these socks have taken me to a place where I never think about my feet anymore, and now I'm worried about sleeping. not my feet.
Where, with the Ingenges, were you still getting blisters versus with the exoskeleton?
I was getting them on the heels. Well, you saw on the outside of my heel and my toes, in between my toes. Big toe, my big toe, Don, big toe had a major blister on it. Yeah, and the problem is it's called shear. The way you get blisters is two immovable things rub against each other, shear, and those socks don't reduce shear. These are slippery. You feel them and you're like, wow, they slide. Well, they don't afford shear because when they rub up against the hard shoe, they're just sliding right off it. So it kind of simulates what a lube or a powder would do. Eddie?
Bob sold me on these socks. He came in one day and talked me into getting them, and I haven't put in the miles you have on me, but my feet come up perfectly clean. I had to sell a few things to be able to buy them, but I've gone through socks like I put holes in them almost completely clean. So far, I haven't, so it's worth it.
Yeah.
I don't work for them either.
Yeah, Don?
Well, I can add to that. I ran part of Tahoe 100. I was a pacer for 50 miles with Donna, who was on your crew.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in, for whatever reason, in Gingy, and she was in the exoskin. She ran the full 100 miles, and we both took our socks off at the end. My feet were dirty with dust, and hers were clean. And to me, that said a lot, because dust is what makes part of the blisters, right? So her feet remained clean after 100, and I ran 50. So, and I'm not selling it. I work for
Right.
it either. I just observed that. So
Yeah, and look, they're not inexpensive. I think at manufacturer retail price they're like $26. That's not cheap, but I'm getting 3 times the life out of them, so I don't really care. Any other questions?
You did one pair of socks, but tell us you did more than one pair of underwear.
Why did you look at me? Just one sock. He asked the question, not me.
Well, I'm gonna be honest. I did not wear underwear, and that's because Tweet turned me on to. No, he said don't wear underwear. It's what he said. No, he introduced me to another brand that has their own internal, kind of. It's not compression, but and again, I never put any kind of cream or lube or anything. I just ran in those shorts, and I want to go off on another brand, but yeah. And in fact, I still have those shorts on too. Yeah. No, what's the pronunciation of the brand? Viore. The Viore is the name of the brand of the shorts. And
Sounds French.
yeah, I know. Well, I could say it with a French accent, but then Craig would get all steamed up.
How many languages did you learn while you were over there?
Yeah. What's that?
You were in it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, any other questions? Really.
How much did your backpack cost?
Sorry.
That's a silly question, but I'm a runner. So is this common now that every toe is individual rather than the socks?
I don't think it's common. I think for Western states, for instance, 25% of the runners had toe socks on. The other 75% didn't. But it's becoming more prevalent, for sure.
How much did your pack weigh?
The pack that I wore in the tour probably was about 6 pounds. The pack that I trained in before was 40. That was kind of a mistake. I only wore 2 pair of shoes, and the one pair that I switched into, I only switched into them for 20K.
And you threw them away?
They are Topos, Topo Terra Venture 2s. I wore them for the whole time except for a little bit of Solomon, just in a super technical area. Yeah, and then I'd love to show them to you, but I left them along with my medal and a bunch of other things. After the race, we went and got a lot of gelato, and I put them down and I left them. So I left all that stuff behind somewhere. But yeah, in fact I can thank. I raced in Terra Venture, Terra Venture 2s. They're right there, And why did I race in those? Because I like ultra shoes a lot, but I struggle with the no drop. It's just me. I'm kind of a heavier guy, so I couldn't deal with the no drop. So what they give you is kind of the same footprint, but with some drop. And then you need super grippy shoes for this race, and they have a super grippy shoe. It's like glue. So made sense. The Salmons were the Ultra Sense, the black ones, and Don knows, we've been wearing those for years. They're phenomenal, but their grip isn't so good.
Can I make just one observation?
Yeah.
You ended up with what, 4 Americans running with you?
3, but 4 English-speaking people.
But maybe you were the 4th. So how many people start this race?
900
And how many Americans are?
There's only about 20.
And you ended up just with a small group, all Americans.
Right.
That just
Completely random.
That's so phenomenal.
Yeah, but it goes to show, it just, it goes to show that all the Americans except a few are really, they're really slow.
That was my
Yeah. There were I think 2 Americans this year in the top 20, which is there's only been 60 Americans that have ever run this. That's pretty good, and we've placed in over the life of the race probably 10 top 10 Americans. So they've come and gone. It's just it's a huge undertaking to do this. So a lot of people won't do it simply because of that, and also it's not well known, right? Most people don't know what this race is, but I think it's increasing. And we did have a new race called the Tour de Glaciers, which is 450K, and it's 120,000 feet of climbing. It's a brand new race, and we had an American finish in the top 10 in that. John Anderson, right over here at Truckee. He's a doctor. He's a phenomenal runner, and he finished top 10. And he and I were exchanging messages yesterday, and he's still walking around like I am, kind of in this post-traumatic thing where you're just not quite right, and you can't explain what it is, which is interesting from a study standpoint. I just, I can't explain it, but it's really hard to get back to just like normal day-to-day living.
Man, 220 miles.
Why did you pick this one of all the?
Because it really, I love the mountains, and I love the fact that I wasn't very good at technical running, and I wasn't very good at downhill running because of the problem I had with my knee. And so I thought, well, why don't I pick something that's really going to challenge me to fix those things or work on those things that I'm not very good at. And it did. It gave me the motivation to go out and correct the problems I had. And then it was in a theater that, I'll put the pictures back on, but it is absolutely stunning. And the people there are great. And I had fallen and didn't finish, and that's just, it's unfinished business, so I felt I needed to go back and, finish what I started. Great.
So one last question, it won't be about the socks and where your extra socks
Or-
are. Because I think Tweet, if he checked in his Speedo drawer, he might find the other socks that he's missing. But you said that this stripped you down and exposed your true self.
Right.
Did you like what you saw? And have you made any changes in your personal life or whatever's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, there's parts that I liked, and I'll say that I really liked the fact that I kept my cool. I did not lose my, lose my cool at all in the race. And Donna and my crew can attest to, I was really trying to problem solve, and that's uncharacteristic of me from my past. So that's a huge improvement in racing, in ultra running, but for my own life, that's tremendous. And the other thing is grit. And look, I admire people that I look at that have grit, that have the ability to get comfortable with pain, mental pain and physical pain. I really do. Pre was a runner early on, 72. His ability to compete at the level, Prefontaine, was about grit. When he was head-to-head with you and you're coming down that last stretch, you had damn well better have more grit than him, because he was going to reach down inside of his body and find something that you are not going to be able to beat. I admire that, and so I've always wondered, where does it come from? Can you grow it? Can you get better at it? And I think you can. I really do think of the things I showed you, the physical thing, you can get to a point, and then it's like you can push yourself, but you're going to start hurting yourself because you're asking more of your body than it will actually give you. But planning and grit, right, are two things you can, I don't care how old you are or what your skill is, you can improve at those things. And learning how to MacGyver yourself out of situations. For me, at 62 years old, I'm newly stimulated to run again, because those are three things I can do, and it has nothing to do with age. And so I look for races, back to Eddie's question, I look for races that reward people that plan and that have grit, right, and that it's going to put you in a problem-solving situation, because I'm very average when it comes to the physical part. And why not? Because I'm still competitive, I still want to do well, so why not go after things that you can improve on? And that, for me, is why I still, love to compete.
Sorry, Scott. Can you speak to the culture, our culture versus European culture of running?
It's the
Different?
same.
Wow.
It's the same. What is that culture? People welcome you. They don't judge you. They will do anything to help you. They're selfless. They're humble. They're absolutely there for you. And the runners themselves, we're all out there helping each other. So it's the same. And it doesn't matter. There's an unspoken language, right? I had so many runners I was around. I fell into a tree well, and I had to be helped out. I was running with two Italian runners, spoke no English, but we were running together. So we were sort of, there, and they formed a human chain. They went down, they pulled me out of the tree well, they dusted me off, they tried to ask me if I was okay, and we went on. And there's hundreds of stories, thousands of stories times the runners of that. And so no, there's no difference, and that's what inspires me, is this sort of community. Our church of trail running is no different anywhere. Scott?
Hey, congratulations. Every picture I've seen of you, you look full of joy while doing this. So this is awesome. This might be too early to ask this question, but is there another adventure race or something of this nature on the calendar?
Yeah, it won't be the TOR, because as I have said, we had a podcast last week. There's only about 15, 20 Americans that can get in every year, and so I feel like I've had my shot. Let's let some other people have a crack at it, because it's a phenomenal experience. But yeah, there will be something else. I have no idea what that is, but I want to go back to that chart and figure out, how do I continue to improve, on the planning, on the grit, right, and really on the MacGyvering. And I feel like I need to tune up whatever my physical capabilities are specific to the race. I mean, Megan's plan was specific to the TOR. If I go off and do another one, we'll come up with a new plan that's specific to that race. But I know I'm going to get to so far, and then it's going to be like, that's all I got. So.
I just want to comment that I was super impressed with just watching, albeit it was very boring to watch from the computer, but I was on the WhatsApp with his crew, and that you never lost your positivity. And that was just the coolest thing. You would change your plan as you had to, and it was sort of like, that's part of the plan, is being able to adapt to whatever the circumstances was, but you never lost hope, you never lost your positivity. It's like, okay, I'm not going to race anymore, we're going to tour now. And that was just the coolest thing. I just really, really appreciated that. You were like, you're not a wuss, you just went out there and you were going to finish. And I'm like, you did it. That was just really cool.
Well, thank you. Okay. The temperatures were probably down. Yeah. They were, we had snow the first day and night, rain the next two, and so I think the first night was right at freezing. And the second two nights were just above freezing. It was like sleet snow, so I would say maybe 38. And then the fourth and fifth night were probably in the 40s, The days were fine. They were like 65, 70 degrees. So basically we're running in shorts and t-shirts in the day. But the minute the sun went down, as Craig knows, man, I mean, it goes from really comfortable to you're grabbing everything you got and putting it on. And of course, you have to be prepared to carry with you the gear. We have crampons. There was a place I could have used them. I didn't have them on me. But you got to have the rain gear. You got to have really, really good layering system. And again, I'm not coming back to Exoskin. They also have tops and bottoms. I wear their tops and bottoms, and so they provide the base layer to keep me warm when it's cold, and they keep me cool when it's hot. It's the same layer, and then everything else I put on that is really justified by what the temperatures are. But you can see, there's the rain layer is key. If you don't have like super good gear for your rain layer, you're just stupid, because you're going to suffer, endlessly suffer, without needing to.
Bob, can we talk about this dog here for a second with Ann Hannis?
Yes. Ann, would you come up? We have a local opportunity.
I know.
And introduce yourself.
We all literally ran into each other on the trail this morning. So I thought I'd bring Gracie here to show up. So I foster for NorCal GSP Rescue, so German Shorthair Pointer. And so she's my new little foster. She's super sweet, and the guys all saw her, and they all wanted to take her home, but I said, no, we have to wait and find somebody here who needs a good running partner. Always, always, always up for running.
How old is she?
She's about a year old. Yeah, so I just keep her until I do some training with her and so forth. I've only had her this week, so so she's real new. Come on, no, girl.
Have you kept your husband to take another one of these?
I know. Well, this is our compromise. So we do have one that we keep, and then we rotate another one out that we always foster, because he's not going to allow me to have them all. So yeah. So the guys invited me to come. Invited me. I was glad they told me about it, but unfortunately we have to leave early. So I gave Don a couple cards. So if anybody wants to get a hold of me or wants to look at the other dogs that we have, German Shorthairs are the best runners. I'm telling you, always, always, always.
I'm thinking Jet needs a partner, right?
Oh yeah, we always see Jet out on the trail,
Yeah.
and we always say hi to Jet. Yeah, so.
Huh?
But
No?
yeah, only a runner can handle these
All right.
dogs. So
Yeah.
anyway, thanks for meeting Gracie.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Stations should put up an adoption.
There you go. Oh, you know what? I'm going to talk to Paulo. That's a great idea. That,
But I gotta say, my wife may be against it when I show up with 7 dogs. We're like, I'm tired of all.
but just the photos, and people can come in and have beer with the dog. And,
We can put up more and take pictures of them.
good
Because
idea.
dogs need
Well, they
to run.
need to run, and they're happiest if they can run, and they're happiest if they're on the trail, because they love sniffing, and if you can see them, their noses are always going, because these guys are, they're working dogs. They're meant to work, but since they're rescues, they end up being pets. So. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, yes, Lori? Yes. Oh, I didn't show a picture of it, but we were in a Volkswagen van that's unavailable here in the U.S. Otherwise, we would have brought it home with us. It's called the California, of course. And it's like the old Vanagon, right? Pop-up top and all that. And we got that for our crew so they could follow, and not worry. And it's got a stove and, sleeps everybody. So I got so excited and so motivated by living, very, I saw Spartan-like, but in a van, that when I got back, Marcy and I had the conversation, said, this is exactly the way we operate. And so, yeah, we have put an order in the factory for not that van, because it's not coming to the U.S., but it's a Dodge version out of Canada called the Tofino, and it's essentially the same van. It's just on a Dodge bed, and we're going to have our new baby in January. Yeah.
Aren't you pretty old to be having a baby?
Got it, I don't know, Okay, listen, the beers and the snacks and everything else are on us. We have a great video running here, which actually shows you what it's like first person. This is one of the guys I ran with. He did a nice video and then some kind of fun pictures. But thank you all for coming. You guys are very kind.